and all short sessions, never long enough to stay in the midst of anxiety. So when I first switch to something, there's novelty, and novelty allows me to escape the building tension briefly. Starting out the day with some listening to The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, who is an author that I really like. Finished up Quit by Annie Duke yesterday, and good book. Not her best, but a lot of really good information in there. That review will go up on Patreon soon. And Gabor Mate in this book, he's speaking in a very similar vein to me and my work. Not seeing humans as failings, but seeing the cultural scaffolding and the technological necessities that we build all around us as problematic, that we are creating a culture and a system and a technological landscape that actually decreases our health and well-being in many ways, even though it appears to be increasing health and well-being in others. It puts more demands on us than we realize. The costs often outweigh the benefits. So, gonna head upstairs. I'm gonna start with some early elliptical. I'm still pretty swollen through here, and it's very sore and tender. Some external bruising coming through. Hard to open my mouth fully, so I'm still mostly drinking my food or mashing it up into somewhat liquid form. So some early elliptical, and then we'll see what happens. The mountains are turning pinkish purple, and the green maple blossoms are out. Many people think those are leaves coming out, but they're not. They're actually maple flowers. I'm just leaving the cardiologist's office, and I'm also noticing how my face is still swollen and lopsided from the oral surgery. It's been 4 days, I think, and there's still a lot of swelling in there. Anyway, I just met with a new cardiologist. Mine transferred to a different hospital. So it's been a long time since my last appointment, probably 9 months. And this cardiologist is commuting from Washington, D.C., which is a 7-hour drive. Comes up here, I think, once a month. So, super smart guy. Had a phenomenal conversation with him about my training, my athleticism, and what is going on in my heart, and what the likely outcome is, which is not good as I age. So he is recommending that I see an electrocardiologist or electrophysiologist, I'm not sure which, electrophysiologist. And they are going to take a look and perhaps recommend ablation surgery, where they will go in and actually disable or kill the heart cells that are responsible for sending the aberrant signal. There are 2 places in your heart that are supposed to send a signal for the heart to beat, but other cells in your heart can start transmitting their own signals and creating an arrhythmia, which is what has happened in my case. My heart cells have become smart, which is dumb. Anyway, so yeah, I gotta wait for that meeting and figure out if I want to actually have ablation surgery or not. But this doctor said that at some point in the future, as I age, this will have a very negative outcome for me. Anyway, that's where I'm at with my heart. Yeah. Okay. Back to the studio to finish my taxes. It's been a really interesting process and far more relaxing and empowering than I imagined it would be. I'm running in the hospital woods right now, headed up towards Mount Anthony, because I got into the car and looked at the mountain behind me, and it was in a dark cloud, and then I looked at the weather and it was gonna rain. So I already don't want to run. Like, just coming out here and running is not appealing to me, so I allowed myself to be bumped into the path of least resistance, which is a nice gradual start in the hospital woods and then going steeper up Mount Anthony, but no rain. So this is something that I do on a regular basis, just allowing myself to get bumped around. I'll still engage, but I get bumped into the easiest choice. But then as I'm moving, that choice becomes more and more effortful. So I'll still get a great run in. It's just the beginning is softer. That actually turned into a pretty solid effort. I just kept gradually ramping it up, not on purpose, but as the hill got steeper and steeper, up to about a 35% grade, my legs just wanted to push, so I did. It felt good. I'm strong. It's exciting. And I already did a 2-hour elliptical session today, so I thought my legs would be really spent, but I'm strong. And what's most interesting is I'm running uphill differently now. I use more of an elliptical or Bigfoot stride going uphill, which I was experimenting with a little bit last year and did it today. And there's much more glute activation. I'm really long in the glute out the back, and that saves my quads. So I'm excited to experiment more with that. Anyway, success, and it didn't rain, but I wouldn't have cared if it did. There's the Taconic Range on the left side of the screen. Mount Equinox rising above the monument. And then across the Valley of Vermont, you have the Green Mountain Range. And Bennington sits down at the bottom of the valley. So I am on one of the Taconics right now, Mount Anthony. So the town is sandwiched between these two mountain ranges. And that's Woodford up there. There's a face hiding in that plastic bag. It is a chilly spring morning, and I'm listening to The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, and he's diving into the effect of emotions on our physiology and talking about how certain chronic emotional states can lead to certain chronic physiological states or illnesses. And this is something I've spent a lot of time researching and thinking about, just due to my own experience dealing with depression. And one of the things that I've learned is that emotions are in large part related to an identity. You have a story, an arc that you're inside of. You have a past which shaped you, which can explain why you are the way you are, why you feel the way you feel, why you believe what you believe. And then you have a projected or predicted future based on that past and your current situation as that past. And this story of identity gives rise to our emotions, gives rise to our appraisals, gives rise to our feelings. Like, do I feel good about my future? Do I feel good about where I'm going? Do I feel good about the relationships that I'm in or lack thereof? Do I feel bad about these things? So what I have spent the vast majority of my research looking into and then practicing and developing tools for is stepping outside of identity. Because identity is just a few networks in the brain doing what they do, like my pancreas does what it does, produces insulin and glucagon. And the identity networks in the brain produce this sense of self with a story. I am embedded within this simulation, and I continually map it onto the world around me and onto the relationships. And I live in the story. I think. I think, therefore I am an identity. So my work is about learning how to employ different networks in the brain that are non-identity networks, or that are very loosely tied to an identity and that can use identity as a tool, but not as your experience of self in the world. And when you learn how to do this, which it's not hard to do, it's not, woo-woo, it's neuroscience. We have different networks that get different amounts of blood at different times in the midst of different activities, and we can switch into non-identity networks. This is where curiosity exists. This is where flow states exist. This is where mastery exists. When we are not conscious of self, or conscious as self, more importantly. When the world isn't about us, but we are looking out at a world and saying, wow, look at that, rather than, ooh, what does that mean for me? So emotions tend to just fade away when you step out of identity and into motion, into movement, into a world. So I'm going to step out of this car and into the studio for a moment, and then off to occupational therapy for my thumb. And we're going to talk about my reintroduction to roller skiing, because the snow is mostly gone and I will not ski again this year. So here we go. My legs are absolutely trashed with DOMs from the mountain run 2 days ago, and the elevator was so appealing. But I'm just slowly taking my time, heading up the stairs, one at a time. It's okay. It's okay. Snowed on the mountain last night. May have to go up and explore. Taking some time to listen to The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. And he's talking about the medicalization of birth. Something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about and studying. I used to hang out with a doula in Los Angeles. She was one of my best friends. And I learned a lot about natural birthing practices, traditional birthing practices. And he's going into how our culture is becoming more and more medicalized, not just in birthing practices, but that's where life begins. So it's important to discuss how we are moving further and further away from natural processes that have worked for us for 100,000 years. And we are now seeing the body as problematic. We are seeing the body as a problem to be solved by medical technology more and more. To me, that's terrifying, just how we are trusting technology, trusting the abstract left hemisphere, and throwing our felt experience, throwing our being, throwing our right hemisphere under the bus. And if you want to know more about that distinction, read The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist. Medicine and modern technology also offers us a great deal, so I'm not completely discounting it. Not at all. I just had a wisdom tooth extracted and intravenous anesthetic. And I've had other procedures done and benefited from modern medicine. But as a culture now, we're too quick to go down the medical path first, rather than looking for a natural process outside of the insanity of our present culture. Anyway, book brings up a lot in me. It reminds me of my formative years and how much I struggled, and how so much of my life was lived in torment, fearing a system, fearing discovery of my defects. And now, finally, in a place where I'm okay being human. heading off to a meeting for the Bennington Road Race Organizing Committee. I'm gonna time the race and offer my services to get it back in action, because it's one of my favorite events in Bennington in my previous years, and it's a shame that the illness has taken it off the map since 2019. So happy to be a part of bringing it back. I have a ton of nervous energy today. I just woke up in an anxious state, not having a goal yet, not having a game to play yet. I've got too many things that I could point myself towards. So I'm spinning in this kind of annoying, irritating anxiety. And my coping is to want to go take a trip somewhere and buy something, which is a bad idea. So I'm keeping myself here. And then the other coping mechanism that shows up is eating. I just want to eat all day long. So how I'm remedying this today, I'm going from small productive task to small productive task. So I've been labeling notes on the computer. I've been transcribing some notes. I've been hitting the elliptical machine. I've been doing some knees to bar, and I'm also doing pull-ups, and all short sessions, never long enough to stay in the midst of anxiety. So when I first switch to something, there's novelty, and novelty allows me to escape the building tension briefly. So I was just on the elliptical for a 10-minute set, and now pull-ups. And I have this nervousness about the pull-ups, or chin-ups, I should say, because I've chosen to do sets of 7. I don't know why, it's just a random number. And 7 is not hard for me, but 7 sounds like a big number. So there's this fear like, oh no, 7 chin-ups. But it's pretty comfortable. So I've got to keep letting myself know that this is good, this is fun, this is easy. So now we're going to head over to the pull-up chin-up bar. I've got my neutral grips here, and then my standard pull-ups and chin-ups. And I chose a slippery bar so that I get more grip strength, because my hands want to slide off as I go, as a little bit of sweat builds up. And I did that on purpose so that it would build grip strength. Anyway, as I do these chin-ups today, I've chosen sets of 7 just arbitrarily. And that makes me a little bit scared. So especially being close grip chin-ups, and I'm going all the way up to my chest. I can't come all the way down with close grip. My elbows don't, well, I'm not flexible enough in the shoulders. So I can't come all the way down when I do the close grip, but the goal is up to the chest. Gentle and with good form, and just reminding myself the whole time that I'm strong, this is okay, it's good. And pause for a moment, down somewhat slowly. Pause. Pause. 3, 4, 5, 6, and my hands are starting to slip. In comes the grip strength. And 7, and my fingers are the ones that are going. Really struggling to stay on the bar. So really good for my forearms. And there, now I can remind myself, see, that wasn't that bad. That was okay. That was good. We're charged up. And now I have this kind of pumped up, empowered feeling that I can take into the next activity, which is more transcription. So that makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 70 pull-ups so far. A couple sets of knees to bar. I did one 5-minute set on the pulling machine at B1, which is an annoying weight. Not super heavy, but annoying. So we'll see. I have no plan on how much I'm going to do. It'll just evolve as it goes. It is hot and sunny. Wow. I'm coming down the Old Stage Road, which is a 2-mile climb from Bennington. Climbs a little over 1,200 feet in 2 miles, so I'm using it as just a gauge to see where I might be for the U.S. Mountain Running Championships, April 29th. So 8 days. And I felt good, felt strong. I just allowed myself to start comfortably, and gradually, without even really thinking about it, I ramped up the pace. It was kind of automatic, and then I was huffing and puffing at the summit. And it was a solid time on this course, which I've run hundreds of times. So, feeling good. I think I got a shot of doing okay. All right. Man, it's hot. Look at that fox. What's it doing? Oh, it's a button. It's head button. It's a butters. Where's it going? My elliptical, which has been my faithful friend for the last several years, has broken. Something in here snapped. So I gotta try to take it apart and see if I can fix it. I got it for free, so I got a couple years out of it without paying for it, so I really can't complain, but I'm bummed that I may not have an elliptical for a bit. I've got one at home, but it's not as good as this one. So we'll see what happens if I can get it apart. April showers bring May flowers. Pretty good rainstorm last night, this morning, heading into the studio a bit late, trying to figure out what to do with my broken elliptical. I think I'm going to clear an area on the other side of my partition wall and move the elliptical there to take it apart and perhaps replace it with my stand-up spin bike for a while. Although the spin bike is harder because I stand up on it. We'll see. It's not something I look forward to, but one step, one gentle step. It has been another day of leak management. We got about an inch of rain last night. And yeah, not fun. So I've been dealing with that and taking apart the elliptical today and trying to figure out what the problem is. So I've got the external casings off, and now I'm down to the mechanism. And I found the problem. This piece of plastic right here is broken, and it's the part that's attached to the crankshaft. So whenever I push down with all my weight, it would stretch this, and eventually it just snapped it. So I'm starting with some super glue in there, lots and lots of it. And I have no idea if that's gonna work, but I'm gonna let that dry for a couple hours. And if that doesn't work, I'm gonna have to take the whole thing apart, take these rotors off, and go in and either reinforce or replace this rod here. It's plastic. I may replace it with wood or metal. I'm not sure yet, but it's fixable. It's been another somewhat mellow week of strength training. Definitely stepped it up from the week before, but again, I don't plan it. I'm just watching it happen. So the polling is different for me. I'm using different stances. I'm holding my arms in different positions, and it's harder than it was. So I'm not doing as much as I used to. I used to have a very limited range of motion, and I was doing like a chicken wing thing where my arms were in like this. But now I'm really coming up in front of me and coming down all the way. I call that the Kruger polling, so I put a K on the board to distinguish between my original polling and what I'm doing now, because my volume and my weight has dropped significantly with this new technique. My first day on the spin bike, it's awkward. I'm not a fan of spin bikes. My knee hurts a bit from it, which the elliptical never caused me any pain whatsoever in the 2.5 or 3 years that I've been using it. Never once did I feel like I was going to injure something, but 35 minutes on the spin bike and my left knee is already like, yeah, you better stop. So we'll see how this goes. I may have to do shorter sessions on the bike. Hopefully I can get the elliptical fixed in the next few days. Don't know, but yeah. Trying not to gain weight this week as I go to the U.S. Mountain Championships because my training is going to be reduced, but it's hard to change your eating habits. We tend to eat a certain amount and we get used to eating a certain amount due to our training, and then the training goes down, but the eating remains the same. So a challenge for me this week is not putting on weight. And again, I really don't care how much I weigh. It's just that I don't want to put on extra weight before the race. I'm already 160 pounds, which is 15 to 18 pounds heavier than my racing weight. So there's already a lot more to carry. I can feel it in my arms and shoulders when I run. The couple times that I have, it's hard moving my arms now. They're a lot bigger. Anyway, I'm off to make a smoothie at home.